Hello. It was announced that today, Wednesday, June 3rd, we would be giving our plan for regathering this Sunday. And the way I would like to approach our plan for this Sunday is to do so in this video form, but also in written form. And I thought it was good not just to give you a written form of how we are going to approach this Sunday, but I wanted you to see me. And I wanted you to hear my voice. And I think that's just important, that you would see me and hear my voice. And that in the hope that you get the full sense of how we're approaching regathering and the spirit behind it as well, the spirit in it. And I just I'm going to say this later, but I'm going to say it now. God has a purpose in all things, right? And He is working out His purpose in all things, even in something like this, even in the experience we've had the last couple months. And He is working out His purpose in our regathering. And something that we must remember is that in all things, we pray that His will be done. And as we go throughout His Word, you can see clearly His will. His will is made known. It's clear to us. And we want His will to be done. And we want His purpose to be accomplished. And we know our God will accomplish His purpose. There's no doubt about that. And so as we go through things that are, let's face it, a trial. I feel this all, not just the last couple months, but even regathering is a kind of a trial. And even in trials, things that are not fun to go through, things that are stressful and have their own anxiety, we hold on that our God is working out His purpose. And that gives us courage. It gives us the joy to press on. And so I want to share with you, as I said, our thinking in reopening, regathering. I don't really like the word reopening, but in our regathering, I want to share with you how we're thinking. And also, there's so much to learn in this. And there's so many biblical principles that are still to be applied, still to be lived out in this. So here we go. The Bible teaches us that we as a local church are many but one. What does many mean? Listen to Colossians chapter 3, verse 11. Paul's writing this to a local church, and he says, "Here there is not Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, free, but Christ is all and in all." Little side note, Scythians had a terrible reputation. But what do we know about Scythians? There was people getting saved and becoming members of a local church. So I'll read that again. Colossians 3:11. "Here there is not Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, free, but Christ is all and in all." So what does many mean? Also listen to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13. "For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body. Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one Spirit." The point thus far is this, that we are many. And many not only includes quantity, it not only includes amount. Many means different ethnicities, different ages, different experiences, different perspectives, different opinions, different political leanings, different backgrounds. Slave or free, that's a different background. And in that background, there's what? Different experiences. And so I think what's so exciting as you read Colossians 3 and 1 Corinthians 12, we bring all of those differences into the church and into each local church. We bring all those differences, and yet the Bible teaches us this, even in those differences, and even with those differences, we are one. So the question now is, how can we be one with so many differences? Okay, 1 Corinthians 12 continues. Keep in mind that it is a local church Paul is instructing. So as I refer to 1 Corinthians, keep in mind that Paul is instructing a local church. Now consider this local church. It's a local church that is first reading and listening to this instruction, but note this, it is also a local church with its own internal struggles and troubles. Each local church is filled with all kinds of people, and we praise God for that. And since it's filled with all kinds of people, it's different and it's many, no matter the size. And each local church will get to experience its own internal struggles and troubles. But listen how Paul instructs this local church. It's wonderful. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 18. So we read verse 13, and now it continues into verse 18. 1 Corinthians 12, verse 18. But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them, as he chose. I want you now to think about Calvary Community Church. This verse is about each one of you. You are at Calvary because this is where God has arranged you. Okay, now 1 Corinthians 12, verse 25. You, as an individual, are a member of Calvary, just as a pinky finger is a member of a hand. And now watch. God has arranged us with all these differences. It's so wonderful. Only God can do this. Why did he do that? Why did he arrange us so at Calvary? Why did he do that? And this is true of every local church. Why has God done that? Even within and with all of our differences. It's phenomenal. Verse 25 tells us of 1 Corinthians 12 that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. Are you starting to see how this is coming together? So imagine many, meaning different ethnicities, different ages, different experiences, different perspectives, different opinions, different political leanings, different backgrounds, but one. And with even those differences, we are one, we should be one, and can be one in having the same care for one another. So what's being described now? Unity. Mark this down. Even with different experiences, different perspectives, and different opinions, we are to be one. Why? Well, we get to show the same care for one another. That's why I keep thinking, even in our regathering, what a wonderful opportunity we have. Because let's admit it, even in regathering, so if you include the last couple months, and even in regathering, we each would admit we have different perspectives, different opinions about the last couple months and in regathering. But we are to be one. Why? Because even in those differences, we get to show the same care for one another. And that one another is referring to local churches, with the relationships within the local church. Now, it reminds me of the Bible college president who resigned to care for his ailing wife. She, I believe, was suffering with and from Alzheimer's. And he shared that the reason for his resignation was not that he had to take care of his wife, but that he got to take care of his wife. The same is true of us, especially now. But again, we are to be one. Why? Listen to Ephesians 3:10. This is meant to, I hope, excite each one of you. Ephesians 3:10 has the answer. We are to be one. Why? Ephesians 3:10, again, written to a local church, says, so that through the church, the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly places. So put it together. Here we are coming together with all these differences, all kinds of differences. But we are to be one. Why? To show. Because remember, He's the one that has arranged us in the body. We get to show, not only to the world around us, the unbelieving world around us, but also to the rulers and the authorities in the heavenly places, that our God is wise. That our God was not and is not foolish in arranging each one of us together to be Calvary Community Church. How exciting is that? And we don't ignore that we have differences, but we come together in unity because we get to show off God. And we get to show whoever's watching, and I know this much for sure, the evil one is watching, and we get to show him, see, our God is wise. Sorry, that gets me really excited. And so I want you to see that in our regathering this Sunday, look at the opportunity we have. We get to show off God. We get to show off that he's wise. Even as we regather, we do. We have a lot of different perspectives and opinions in regathering. But in so doing, we get to make sure those differences don't divide us, but we can be united in those differences to show our God is wise. Wise how? In arranging us together. So, in all of our differences, and with all of our differences, we are one. And in being one, we get to care for one another. We get to make known the manifold wisdom of God, and we will not let division take place. And this is how I would like us to gather this Sunday. In gathering this Sunday, we do so in all of our differences and with all of our differences, which include experiences, perspectives, and opinions. We need to embrace that because we get to care for one another in those things, and we get to make known the manifold wisdom of God. I want to stress this. As we care for one another, even in a time like this, we are making known the manifold wisdom of God. I don't want you to forget that. Not all of us feel the same way about this virus or social distancing, and that is okay. Some of us are more cautious. Some of us are not as cautious. It is good. This is good because we get to come together and care for one another, and in so doing, make known the manifold wisdom of God. Divisions in a local church never make known the manifold wisdom of God. Divisions in a local church cannot make known the manifold wisdom of God. So again, this is how I would like us to look forward to gathering together this Sunday. A few thoughts. So everything I just shared, that is how I'm approaching this Sunday, and that's how I want us to approach this Sunday. And it's how I would like us to look forward to gathering together this Sunday. And I want to say this. In so doing, we are doing so with no regrets. What do I mean by that? That's something I shared at Calvary when I first came almost 8 years ago. That we have to make sure in our experience with each other that there's no regrets. What do I mean by no regrets? I mean this. No broken or hurt relationships. In everything we do, that is the greatest regret. That in anything we do, that if there would be a broken or hurt relationship, that is the regret. The regret is not in the things we do so much. The regret is that in doing those things, that there would be a broken or hurt relationship. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. We want to do this with no regrets, and by that I mean no broken or hurt relationships. Number 2, I want you to remember that as we regather, we are easing our way back into things. We are easing our way back into things. And that is to say this. It's all temporary. So the things I'm about ready to share with you in this plan, it's all temporary. It's not going to last. Now, there might be some things we learn that tell us, how we can do things better permanently, that's great. We need to be paying attention to that. There need to be things that we're learning that help us to do things permanently. But some of the precautions we're taking, they're just temporary. So remember too, please remember this, that we are easing our way back into things. And some of us might say, well, I could easily right now go back to normal. That's great. But also keep in mind, there's some of us that say, I can't as easily go back to normal that quick. So see, why then we are easing our way back into things? Number 3, let's all remember this, that this is a most wonderful opportunity. God is giving us something to be learning and applying to our lives in all of this, right? Life's experiences are full of spiritual lessons, full of lessons from God, because He's in charge. He's in charge of all these experiences. He allows these experiences for our good. It disciplines us. He disciplines us for our good. And it's to correct things. And it's part of our sanctification too, right? In all things, we're also being sanctified. We're growing in our sanctification. That is looking more and more like Jesus every day through everything we experience as we walk with God. So remember, this is a most wonderful opportunity. And just some thoughts to expand on what those opportunities look like. Well, one, this Sunday we get to see one another. We've been gathering the last few weeks to pray together on Tuesday evening. We did, I think, Tuesday morning last week. It was awesome. And I love that in this, what has happened, there's been a longing created to see one another. That is so good. My own daughter admitted to me, Dad, I feel terrible because I have taken for granted my local church. And I said, don't lose that. Don't forget it. And I had to admit to her, me too. So we get to see one another, and it's not just about seeing one another, but in seeing one another, we get to worship Jesus together. And don't you think too, that's what's been missing? Doing the thing online, that's not church. Now, it was a good temporary solution, or a good offering and during this time. But do you want that to be permanent? I don't want it to be permanent, because that's not church. That's not how the church is to function, doing things online. Although it did give us a good offering and helping us get through this, right? So we get to see one another and worship Jesus together. Number 2, in doing all this, we get to serve and love one another. We get to show grace and more grace to one another. Think about Ephesians 4:29. It talks about your speech. That your speech is not to be tearing down, but for building up. That's showing grace. And when there's speech, that means there's listening. So sometimes we speak to be listened to, right? But sometimes our speech is in reaction to what we just listened to. Well, what's key is Ephesians 4:29 teaches that in our speech especially, we get to show grace and more grace. So this is an opportunity for us. As we get to regather, we get to show grace and more grace to one another. That's awesome. Praise God for that. This is a wonderful opportunity in that we get to submit to one another. We get to consider one another's interests first above our own. We've looked at that in Philippians chapter 2. We get to consider another person's concerns above our own concerns. We get to consider another person's welfare above our own welfare. We get to consider another person's interests above our own. We get to bear one another's burdens. This is a perfect example of that. You know, some of us are more burdened about this than others. What do we get to do? We get to come alongside that person and bear their burden with them. How do we do that? Maybe in understanding, maybe just giving a listening ear, maybe giving some encouragement, maybe just being there saying, isn't this great? This is the relationship we've been called to, we've been arranged into. And that's from Galatians, I think it's around Galatians 5. Galatians 5 or 6 teaches us that we get to bear one another's burdens. And we get to outdo one another in showing honor. Showing honor to who? One another. It's almost like we get to be in this neat race about, I'm going to outdo you in showing honor to so-and-so. We get to show honor to one another. I love this next one. We get to cry out to God. Isn't it involved in calling upon his name? We get to cry out to God. We get to trust our pastor, his leading, and following his example. Now, what is key? What is key in trusting our pastor? Key, or very important, is that our pastor has shown himself trustworthy. That's key for any pastor. A pastor must show himself trustworthy. And so our hope is that however long each one of us has known our pastor, we should be expecting and we should be experiencing him showing himself trustworthy to us. And in showing himself trustworthy to us, we are then to trust him. We should be able to trust him, right? And we show that trust in following his leadership and his example. Hebrews 13 helps teach this. Let me read it, because I think it's just encouraging. Hebrews 13, and you actually have to start with verse 7. The writer of Hebrews states in verse 7, remember your leaders. Now that's not talking about government leaders. Although we do have government leaders, right? We have government authorities. This is talking about another kind of leader. Hebrews 13:7. Remember your leaders, those who spoke to you the word of God. So you see what leader this is? Consider the outcome of their way of life, and then watch this, and imitate their faith. Then what this continues. Start with verse 7, and it continues down to verse 17. Obey your leaders. Which leader is that? It's the one from verse 7, the one who has spoken to you the word of God. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls as those who will have to give an account. That makes me think of what Paul said about Timothy. Was it there in Philippians, I think? That when Paul mentioned Timothy, who was a pastor, remember he was going to go on to pastor the church in Ephesus. Paul says, I have found almost no one like him who is genuinely concerned for your welfare. Hebrews 13:17, obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls as those who will have to give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with groaning, for that would be of no advantage to you. And so that's why I looked at this wonderful opportunity as, this is an opportunity we get to trust our pastor in the expectation and in hopefully the experience that he has shown himself trustworthy. So for Sunday, if for any reason you're not feeling well, stay at home. And while you're home, check your temperature. If you're curious, and if you're questioning, hey, should I leave? Check your temperature. And if you have a fever, stay home. Remember, you're not checking your temperature to see if you have a temperature. We all have a temperature. You're checking your temperature to see if you have a fever. That's just an idiosyncrasy of mine. So if for any reason you're not feeling well, stay at home. Check your temperature. Number 2, if for any reason you are just not ready to gather together, that's okay. You will still have the option to watch online, and whether that will be live or recorded, we'll let you know, but you'll still have that option. So I just want to say that with so much understanding and so much grace. And I hope that is what's being communicated, that if for any reason you're just not ready to gather together, that's okay. Number 3, as we come Sunday, we will be using the main double doors. Those are the double doors that face Clegg Road, the front of the building. And we will be using those main double doors for entering and exiting the building. You'll see them propped open at the beginning of our service, and you'll see them propped open at the ending of our service. And that's just a way to make sure we're not touching doorknobs and handlebars and all touching the same one. Linda Eric has done a phenomenal job these last couple of weeks of just sanitizing every square inch of the building, and that's literal, every square inch, on her hands and knees sometimes. And, that's because she loves you. That's why she does it. And that's why she's done it. And she's taken so much good care of every bit of the building. And then that's going to continue. She'll be very busy either Sunday afternoon or all into next week. But they will be propped open. And I want to state this too, outside, because we have that sidewalk going from the parking lot, and there's that big slab of concrete. I shouldn't say concrete, that big slab that is the entranceway then into the double doors. We're going to have a greeter out there. It's going to be one of your deacons. And you have 3 deacons, Bruce Walsh, Scott Weinschreider, and John Schneider. It's going to be one of them that we're going to have out there. And they're only out there for this one reason, to greet you. That's it. And because we're really concerned, we want to make sure that we want everyone still, as before this happens, still when they come to Calvary, feel welcomed and feel warmth. We want that. So we want to make sure that we're cognizant of that we're looking out for that. And that's the reason to have a greeter out there. It's just with a smile. And don't you enjoy the joy of Bruce and the joy of John, the gentleness of John? And Scott always has a smile on his face. That's what we want you to see as you come Sunday, that you'll be greeted with that kind of smile and that kind of joy and that kind of gentleness, because we're concerned that even though this is going to be different and there's going to be differences, we still want everyone to feel welcome, right? That welcoming, that we're at home. And I'm just sharing things that people have shared with me over the last 8 years, that you feel at home at Calvary, you feel welcome. So we want to make sure that it's still experienced. So that's the only reason for the greeter, that's it. Number 4, there is hand sanitizer. You'll see that located as soon as you come into the building. There on the information table, you'll see it inside the sanctuary. So there is hand sanitizer for those that feel like they need to use it, would like to use it. It's there. The sanctuary is arranged with social distancing in view. For instance, prior to this, we had 96 chairs in the sanctuary. With social distancing in view, we now have 70 chairs in there. So there's still plenty of room for visitors, for you to invite friends and family to church. So it's gone from just having 96 chairs to 70. Now, prior to the pandemic, we were having, and I don't take count. That gives me the tremors to think if anyone's taking count. I don't like taking count. But I have noticed that we have been having Sundays where it feels like everyone has decided to come on the same day. And when that happens, when everyone is able to come on the same day, we are having Sundays of 50, 53, 55 people. And isn't that awesome? And what I think is encouraging to hear is that even with the sanctuary arranged with social distancing in view, we still have all that room. So if everyone during this decides to come on the same Sunday, which I hope you do, it'd be great to see an attendance of 53, 55. We can still house all that with room to spare. And so it's right at like 70, maybe 67, but it's like right at 70 if you include the back pew, or if you include the overflow area where the copier is. There's seating in there too. So we're in good shape. And to be honest with you, I kind of wish the way the sanctuary is arranged now, I like it so much. I kind of wish that's how it has always been arranged. It looks really neat. I like not that our sanctuary didn't feel comfortable before, but I like this even more. The way it's arranged, it's just appealing to my eye, at least to my eye. And I like it. And I saw it yesterday. I thought, wow, I kind of wish this is how it's always been arranged. It looks so good. So the sanctuary is arranged with social distancing of you. And I want to say this: we're not telling you where to sit. We're not telling you where to sit. And it's been arranged in such a way that that's not even necessary. And to be honest, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to come out and say, we're gonna, almost like you're coming to a restaurant and the hostess is marking you down and taking you to your seat. I didn't want to do that. The deacons didn't feel comfortable with even operating that way. So this accommodates that go sit wherever you want. And I think it is really, really important from the leadership's perspective to be able to say to you, we trust you. We trust you to be able to sit wherever you would like, and we trust you to use common sense. And we did not want to come across as like dictators, authoritarian-like. Don't you think there still needs to be a sense of freedom? That we're using freedom and we're using common sense and we trust one another. Trusting one another, to be honest, is so key to our effectiveness. Not just during this, but at all times. If we don't trust one another, how can we be effective? Number 6, feel free to wear a mask. If you would like to wear a mask, wear it. If that makes you more comfortable, that's great. I would give this suggestion, that you at least bring a mask with you for this reason, only for this reason. That if you want to go talk to somebody and you see they're wearing a mask, that might be communicating to you that's how they're most comfortable, and they might be saying to you, I'd be really comfortable if you had a mask on too if you talk to me. So see, it's putting the interest of another person above our own. I don't like wearing masks, to be honest. Yesterday, we ordered our favorite Chinese restaurant reopened. We've been craving it. Well, I've been craving it for a really long time. And as I knew when they were opening, and we were like the 10th person to place our order. I placed it at 11 to be picked up at 5, 6 hours later. And I wanted it so bad, and I went up there and I saw right on the door, they never told me this, but it said on the door, if you enter this building, you have to have a mask on. So guess what I did? I had to drive 7 minutes home to get my mask and come back. And I was willing to do that because I wanted Chinese so much. I wanted Chinese food so bad. And the only thing I ever order in 39 years from any Chinese restaurant is beef with broccoli. It's my favorite, with steamed rice and a pork egg roll. And I wanted it so bad, I was willing to put on that mask to get my food. And I think the same approach is true. You'll see people, you might see people Sunday wearing a mask inside the building, and you may want to go talk to them. Don't let mask wearing keep you from going to talk to somebody. And maybe just have yours in your pocket in case you think, well, they might be more comfortable if I put it on as I talk to them. Do you understand what I'm saying? And for those of you who say, I don't have a mask, well, we have 20 masks at church available. They're cloth masks. It was made by a friend of ours who is also a nurse. And she knew who she was making them for. She knew she was making them for our church. So they will be out. And if you want one, you can take it. Now, what we ask is don't give it back. It is yours to keep. We don't want them back. And you can maybe talk to Lisa or others about how do you take care of a mask, because you will get your own germs on it. And you don't want to be putting on that same dirty mask. You want to be able to clean it. So you can talk to Lisa and others about how do you go about cleaning a mask. But so again, I hope I'm making sense. Feel free to wear a mask if that makes you more comfortable. Now in the sanctuary, we will have the windows open. And so we'll have that nice cross breeze coming through. And I remember last summer, we just never went around doing it, but some of you asked, let's open the windows so people can hear us sing. Well, get this Sunday we have the windows open and people are going to get to hear us sing. Isn't that exciting? And it's neat having the windows open because we're doing it for ventilation, but look how God's using it. That his praise would be heard outside our building. Isn't that exciting? Number 7, we are encouraging that you abstain from hugging and shaking hands. We're encouraging that. And again, it's with the same thing with the mask wearing. There just may be some people that are not yet ready to shake hands and hug. And so we're doing that out of the interest of others. And so it's just an encouragement. That's all it is. We're encouraging you to abstain from doing that. You'll see the offering plate as you enter into the sanctuary. So it's there. And as you enter in, if you like put your offering in the offering plate there as you enter in, that'd be great. Or it'll be there as you exit. So you can put your offering in the plate either as you enter or exit the sanctuary. At least for this Sunday, we won't be having children's church and we won't be providing a nursery. And part of that too is just easing our way back into things. And I really like having the children in the sanctuary with us. And because I think they need to hear from their pastor. And so what I would encourage all kids to do is to, come in. You're not a distraction. You're not a distraction to me. And I don't believe the children are a distraction to anybody else. I think it's a great reminder. Kids are here. Remember what Jesus said? He said, don't deny any child coming to me. And how do children learn how to worship? They learn how to worship by watching adults worship, by watching their parents worship. How do they learn how to listen to a sermon? By listening to a sermon. Now, having said that, I love children's church, and we have phenomenal children's church teachers, some of the best. I think they are all the best. So, but this Sunday, it's good to have the children in the sanctuary with us and to listen to their pastor, what the pastor has to say. So I would just encourage, and this is for everybody, bring a pen and paper with you to take notes. But especially children, I like to have you take notes, and I would like to hear about your notes afterwards. And I understand this. As you take notes, all those notes are going to turn into drawings and doodles. That's okay. Some of the adults do the same thing. Their notes turn into doodles. But that's okay. And I would like every child to be looking for something that we hear out of God's word that means something to them, and write it down. That's all I'm asking. And then lastly, there won't be a paper worship guide available, but the worship guide will be available online, both through Sharon's blog and through the church blog. So I would encourage you, that might be available, I would think, by Saturday afternoon. At least Sunday morning when you wake up, you'll have the links. I'll send them to you in an email to Sharon's blog and the church blog. Have those on your phone, have those on your tablet, so you can bring in the sanctuary with you, and you have it electronically. You have the worship guide electronically. And just as always, everything's going to be on the screen too. So, I hope this was encouraging to you, and I hope it helps, and I hope it helps hearing from me. Again, you're going to have this in written form, and I'll send that out. But it's good to watch this video first, and then have the written form as well. And be praying for Sunday, be praying for one another, and we have much to look forward to. And our Sunday's going to be good. It's going to be good.